Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Chris Hasvold again, your 2020 Association President. We are here for the third Chit Chat. If you remember the first one we had a couple weeks ago, we had, who do we have? We had Art Carter from CRMLS, which was great. He was the CEO of CRMLS. We had Joel from CAR, and we had Ed, who was the county assessor, and it was a great, we had over 400 participants. It was a great educational opportunity for us. Last week, we had our attorney, Fred Pfister, who was on, and this week, you're in for a treat. We have CRMLS again. They're back with us. They're our wonderful MLS provider. We're gonna have two speakers from CRMLS today. We're gonna have Carol Paul, who is the systems documentation expert. She's going to talk about virtual open houses in Paragon and some new Paragon enhancements. We're also going to have Jeff Smetana, who is the Director of Compliance. He's going to talk about new guidelines and policies, rule changes, and things that they're doing to help us through this difficult time. So we're going to, before I get started with them, a couple things we're going to talk about again. Next week, next Friday, we'll be back here at 10 o'clock for our fourth Chit Chat. We'll have Lawrence Yoon, who's the NAR Chief Economist, and we're going to have Christian Hoysrath, who's the NAR Political Representative. So make sure you bookmark this, put on your calendar for next Friday as well at 10 o'clock, and we will keep you informed as always. Just for information, this will be recorded. That question always comes up, so it will be recorded. It will be on the YouTube channel, and you will be getting an email tomorrow with a link to that. It's also going to be posted in the chat today. You can copy and paste that, so you don't have to take copious notes. You will be able to review this again, and for those that in your office that couldn't make it today, they'll be able to go back and take a look at this. So without further ado, let's jump in with Carol, and she's going to talk about some virtual open houses and things that we need to know about Paragon right now. So Carol.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. Hope that you're doing great on this Friday. Yay. So if you hadn't heard, we now have the option to add virtual open houses and virtual tours. So now that the caravans are back up virtually, you could add your properties to the virtual tours as well as public open houses. So one of the first things you're going to do for virtual open houses is you're going to decide on which web conferencing platform you want to use. People are using GoToWebinar, Google Hangouts, and Zoom, of course, is very popular. We're using Zoom all the time at CRMLS. So once you decide which web platform you're going to use, then you're going to go into that system and create the event or virtual open house. So if you're using Zoom, they call it meetings. So you schedule when you're going to be virtually live and present information on the home that you're having an open house for. So there are just a handful of agents that physically go to the house if it's vacant and walk through and do a virtual live open house, you know, with the camera. But for the most part, when you're hosting a virtual open house, you're basically inviting people to join you as you show the pictures from your computer. So the pictures of the property from your computer, and you're narrating just like as if you were in the house. You're talking to them about this room and this picture and how it leads to this hall and the beautiful scenery and the spacious rooms and, you know, all the upgraded amenities. Or you could show them a video of the property. So you're still hosting it, but you're just hosting it virtually. So again, you're going to go and create that event or meeting. And then once you've done that, then copy that link or that URL. Then you're going to come here into Paragon, and let me actually show my screen. Let me see if I can show my screen. No, I can't show my screen. Okay. So then what you're going to do is actually come into Paragon, and just like you did before, you're going to go up to listings, then, you know, under add edit, you're going to maintain your listing. Click on open house, or if you're going to add it to a broker tour, a virtual broker tour caravan, click on that. Then when it pops up, now you'll see a checkbox, and the checkbox says live stream, and it's going to be defaulted because you're not going to have the opportunity to schedule a live in-person open house in the system. So everything's virtual. Then you come down below that, there's a box, and Below that is a space to add that link. So remember I told you earlier, you're going to copy and paste that link. Well, this is where you paste it in that box. So the same place you did it before. Click on, you know, add edit open house or add edit tour, either place. Then copy that link, paste it there. Then what you're going to do, oh, and Bill, no, unfortunately, I don't think I have the privilege to screen share. Let me check again if I can. No, I don't have the ability. So I'm trying to create a word picture just like you would if you're having a virtual open house. So then you're going to paste the link and then set the dates, the times. Now, depending on which web conferencing, oh, I've got access now. Just a second. I could show you my screen. There we go. All right, now I'm sharing my screen. All right, so here I am. And I'm going to come up here to add edit. So listings right up. Oops. There we go. Come right here to listings. I'm going to come over here to maintain. Click on listings. Now, I personally don't have a listing, so I'm going to enter one, but your listings would display right here. I'm going to enter one just to pull it up. There we go. Now here's the listing. I'll come over here to the far right-hand side where it says action, select an action. And then right here under add edit open house, or there's add edit tour, right? So same places, nothing's moved. I'm going to select add edit open house. Then I'm going to come up here to the upper left corner where there's a green plus sign. It says add new. Click on that. Here's where I was describing that the checkbox is defaulted to live stream. And here's that field that you could paste the URL. So let's see, I think I have today's URL still saved. Woohoo, there we go. So there, I just pretend this is the virtual open house URL. So you paste your link or your URL there, you select the dates and the times that you've selected, so that what you created in Zoom, GoToMeetings, whichever platform you're using. So you're gonna mirror these dates with whatever you created in that link. Set your time frame. Now, if you're using the free Zoom account, remember they only give you 40 minutes for the free one. So I would say if you're doing that, set your time between like 1:30 or just a 30-minute increment. This way it leaves you 10 minutes extra for any questions. Now, if you upgrade to one of their plans, then you'd have additional time. Coming down further is where you could add comments. And of course, you're probably going to say no to refreshments since it's virtual.
Carol,
now, then you
Carol, can I jump
sure.
in 1 second? I know that this free Zoom is only 40 minutes. If that's the case, could you set up a couple of 30 minutes, like 1 to 1:30 and then 1:45 to 2:15? Okay, good.
Yeah, great point. Great. Yes, you can create multiple ones and set them up back to back. The main thing is that if you did have an upgraded account, you don't want to sit there for hours and hours, because if no one shows, you're stuck sitting in front of the camera, right? So smaller increments are nice. And then of course, if you have the free version, yes, you could create multiple ones. What's nice is you could create them as reoccurring. So if you're going to do 3 from 9 to 9:30, great, create those in Zoom, and then create another recurring, let's say from 12 to 12:30. And so you can create multiple reoccurrings and then bring them here and paste them right here and set them up. Once you set the dates and the times and you paste the link, you'll come up here to the upper right corner and you'll hit save. Since this is not my listing, I won't hit save. I'm going to hit cancel. Same thing if you're going to add it to a caravan now or a broker tour. So right over here on the left side, I still have the option to add this listing to a tour. I'll come up here to the upper left corner, hit add. Same thing, defaulted to stream, paste the link, select the tour group, and if you don't know which one it is, you can click on the magnifying glass, but I'll say N701, and there we go. Select the date. So normally Carlsbad meets on Wednesdays, Oceanside meets on Thursdays. San Marco Vista meets on Fridays, and Escondido meets on Tuesdays. And so does Carmel Valley meet on Tuesdays. And I think Fallbrook meets on Wednesdays, if my memory is correct. Chris would know that better than I would.
It is Wednesday.
Yay! So yeah, so you set the date up based on that caravan date, and still check the website so you're in compliance with their, their deadlines and everything else. And then go ahead and set your time frame, how long you're going to be there for a virtual broker open house or broker tour. Same thing, time frame, comments, probably let you know for refreshments, and then hit save. Now, to search for properties that are having a broker tour or a public open house virtually, you're going to do it the same way as well. Come up here to search and come down, and in the center of the screen, do you see tour open house? Oops, inventory. There you go. Tour open house right there. Click on that. Enter in your criteria. So are you looking for a tour? Are you looking for a public open house? So in the first field where it says status, I'm just going to select 0, select open house. And then I'm going to come down here and it's going to say live stream, tour open house live stream right here. Right there. And I'm going to say yes. My only options in that field is yes or no. But remember, whenever you have the magnifying glasses here, those are a list of options for what could go in those fields. Now, I can refine my criteria down like I have in the past, zip codes, residential styles or class, bedrooms, bathrooms, and I've got 29 right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit search. And maybe tomorrow. Now we have the results right here. Now, the report you're looking at is the tour and open house view. And if you've had any of my classes, I always take you through preferences and encourage you guys to change it to this report style so it pops up first, because I like it because it has the listing agent office and information on there. But you want to come over to the far right-hand side, click on the green reports button. You see the green reports button up there? Click on that and change it to the tour and open house spreadsheet. When you do that, scroll all the way over to the right-hand side, and there's your links. So there's your links that you could click on. When you click on that link, you'll either register for that virtual open house, or you may join them right then and there, depending on the time. So click on that link to register or join. So pretty simple. Just the main thing to find the link is you want to change the report to the tour and open house spreadsheet. Now, if you guys have customized any of your reports before, like I do, my tour and open house spreadsheet, I had already modified it. You're going to need to come back to customize fields and revert it back to the default here. Because once you start messing with this spreadsheet, it's going to hide those fields. So hit revert to default. And if you don't see those fields on the spreadsheet, then you will. So just a little tip that I discovered going, where's my fields? All right, so that's pretty easy, right? Not too much has changed. And we've got a lot more than we had just a few days ago. So that's great. This is wonderful seeing all these.
Okay, Carol, a couple questions.
Yes.
And let me apologize to everybody first. I'm assuming all of you like me have been doing nothing but Zoom meetings for the last 2 weeks. So I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. But if this is your first one, want to make sure you know how to participate. If you're using a computer, regular screen, if you hold your mouse down on the very bottom, you'll see chat. If you have questions, make sure you do ask them in the chat. I'm reading those. I'll be able to ask those of the panelists. If you're using an iPad, up in the right corner, there's the 3 dots that says more. Click on that and you can do the chat. This is not a typical Zoom meeting in that everybody's going to see your pictures and we're going to have this dialogue going back and forth. Everyone's muted. And the way we're going to be able to answer questions is if you make sure you put them in the chat and we'll relay them to the panelists. So again, I apologize for that, but that gives you a little bit of operational protocol here. So we do have a couple questions, Carol. First of all, is that available in Matrix?
Yes, it is. And we actually have training materials. We just had a webinar on it. Actually, we've had a couple webinars on it this week. But if you come up to CRMLS.org, and let me make sure I'm still on, yep, I should be on the right screen. Come over here to education, So I went to crmls.org, click on education, then come here to knowledge base. Under knowledge base, right here is going to show you how to do a virtual open house there in Matrix. Plus, we've recorded a video on it, and it should be posted, I'm hoping today, because it was recorded yesterday. And so that should be on our YouTube channel as well. So we have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, it's CRMLS TV. So you could subscribe to it. And let me hop over there real fast. I will show you it. There we go. So now here we are on CRMLS TV. It's our YouTube channel. You can come here to videos. And under videos, you'll see our information. So I had just created one for Paragon, and that's already posted. And it's right here, actually. So there's our video. And we should have the one for Matrix in there, hopefully today, because it was recorded as well. But yep, you could do the same thing. What other questions do we have, Chris?
Sorry, I was typing there, trying to do that at the same time. I'm trying to listen to you because I want to learn this, and I'll have to go back and watch the recorded video. What did we have? We had, can only the listing agent edit the virtual open house information?
Well, yeah, well, yes, because it's their listing. And now, if you have an assistant that you've given the right to assume their identity in Paragon, so if you're using Paragon and you've given your assistant the right to assume your identity, then they could go in and paste the link because they're going in as you. Remember, you never share your passwords. That's a violation. But you've given them the right to assume your identity, so they could paste the link, they could edit the open house as long as they are going in as assuming your identity. So yes.
Okay, and a couple questions again. Is it being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. If you guys want to look up in the chat, scroll way up to the top of the chat, and the link to the NSDCR YouTube channel is there, and it will be posted there. So you'll be able to go back and look at that. One other question, let me see if I can find that one again that was up here. From one of the panelists, or one of the members, they should practice on having one of these on their cell phone and whatever device they're going to use to tour the home. Not sure.
Was that a question?
Yeah, more of a statement, I guess, but does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, I know you could go to the property, and I'm not quite sure what the terms are for signing the PEAD if you're, going there, if it's vacant, but yes, there is the option to go there live and walk through with your phone. Most of the time, you're doing exactly what we're doing here. I'd be the host, let's say, and I'm pulling up pictures as I'm doing right now, describing what those pictures are. And in a virtual open house, if you want to allow them to talk to you and turn on their cameras, they can, and they could ask questions live, or they could chat them in. Either way, but you're basically doing the same thing. You're just not physically at the property. Most of the time, you're hosting it from your house and describing everything by pulling up the pictures of the videos of the properties from the comfort and safety of your own home. But there are a few that go there physically and walk through and, doing a live videotape as the prospective buyer is asking questions, or the prospective agent is asking questions.
Okay, great. And that question actually came from Bill Richard, one of our directors, and it's his birthday today. So shout out to him.
Hey, happy birthday, Bill.
I think someone asked a question about Carlsbad Tour. I tried to log on to the Carlsbad Tour on Wednesday, but nothing happened for 10 minutes. Did I copy the wrong link? Are they having technical difficulties?
I heard that brought up during the caravan, and it sounded like there might have been two different links, one on Facebook and one on the webpage. So I think they were working to resolve that. Actually, Bill may have an answer on that one, because I know he was at the caravan as well. Okay,
great. Yeah, he's saying yet they had difficulties. So, okay. I know that there's some other questions that Jeff's going to be covering about as well. So, any other questions before we let Carol go? And if not, make sure you put them in the chat, and we will get back to her on those at the end of Jeff's presentation. One more question. What's the name of the report to show all the links?
Oh, it's this one. I'm glad I just flipped my screen. It's when you get to the results page, come over here in the upper right corner, click on the green reports button. And down here, you'll see there's the section for tour and open house, different reports. It's the very first one, at least it is on my screen. And it says tour open house spreadsheet. This one, not the one below that says 130. It's the first one right here.
Great. Terrific. A lot of positive feedback on that. You did a great job, Carol. And again, it'll be posted on our YouTube site. There's a lot of technical stuff in here. You're going to want to go back and make sure you watch that to have that process down. But we appreciate CRMLS coming up with a great solution for us, because we're kind of having to wing it now with what's going on, and we're doing business different. So thank you guys.
Sure.
Okay, Jeff. Again, Jeff is the Director of Compliance. He's that guy. So he's going to talk about
Yeah.
He's a good guy, though. He is a good guy.
I appreciate that, Chris.
Just with a bad title, that's all. How's that?
That's all right. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to be here, everybody. I hope you are staying safe and sane in this time. We are definitely trying to make it a little bit easier for you guys to continue to do business. What Carol was highlighting with the virtual open houses and the virtual showings should be helpful. Hopefully you're able to take advantage of that if you're not already. So I'm here to talk about the clear cooperation policy. So there was a full webinar that Ed Zorn, General Counsel, did yesterday. I believe that recording should be made available to your AOR. You can dig into that if you would prefer to hear this from Ed, which is fine. But I can take you through the clear cooperation policy and the rules and how we're going to implement it. So before I start sharing my screen, just a real brief backgrounding on what this is. Perhaps there's folks on right now who don't know what this is and haven't heard of this coming along. So the clear cooperation policy refers to a new policy / rule developed by the National Association of Realtors and mandated upon the NAR Association affiliated MLSs to implement by May 1st. What is clear cooperation? Why is it even called that? Well, foundationally for MLSs, the foundational concept is one of cooperation, okay? And the short version of that is, it goes like this. So we'll join voluntarily together in an organization, and we'll agree that as brokers, you can see and sell all of my listings, and I get to see and sell all of yours. And so that's the tacit agreement that we make in an MLS. In the case of, let's call them off MLS listings, where a broker takes a listing but does not enter in the MLS, for whatever reasons, the cooperation agreement is a little bit, there's a little bit of a conflict there, because one broker is essentially saying, I want to see and sell all of your listings, but you can't see and sell all of mine. So a lot of good arguments on both sides of this issue in terms of pocket listings and off MLS sales. But what happened was NAR took this up after quite some time of hearing about it through their Emerging Issues and Technology Advisory Board, decided to look into this and came up with a policy that they pushed forward to the NAR MLS Policy Committee last fall. And that particular committee made a few tweaks to it and eventually pushed it forward in its final format to the Board of Directors, the NAR Board of Directors, who voted on it at that same conference. And 92% of the directors voted in favor of this policy. So it is here. Once it was approved, the NAR did mandate that this would be implemented by all the MLSs by May 1st of 2020. So that's what we're dealing with, and I will share my screen, and we can talk about what actually happened here. So, Chris, can you see that, the clear cooperation policy slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what is the language of this rule? So here is exactly what NAR approved. This is the policy itself. And it says, within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. Public marketing includes, but it is not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays, including IDX and VOW, digital communications marketing, email blast, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. So that's the language of the policy. Note at the bottom of the slide, it does tell you that this policy only applies to residential vacant lot, and 1 to 4 unit properties. So this policy does not apply to multi-unit, mixed use, or leases, or any other variety or species of property type other than the residential vacant lots in 1 to 4. So that's what NAR generated. At CRMLS, then we had to deal with this and figure out what kind of rules we're going to make, change, or adapt to accommodate this and get it into an implementation format for you guys. So what we've done is, for the sake of the Paragon rule set, we've got this new rule 7.5.1, and here is where the NAR policy is encapsulated in your rule set. So it reads largely the same. As you can see, it starts out basically the same. We do take a little bit more time in our rule to more specifically define or actually expand the definition of marketing to be a little bit more thorough. We've added a few specific instances, such as at the end there, you can see conducting an open house, which is certainly marketing, was not included in the NAR rule, but we've included it there. So we've tried to help with the definition of marketing. The other thing we've done is try to help you guys understand and draw a bright line as to who is the public. Right, so if you look at the policy, you say, okay, I'm figuring out what marketing is, but who is the public, right? I mean, who is this audience that if I'm speaking to, advertising to, would trigger this requirement that I then take my listing and put it in the MLS in 1 business day. So we've drawn the line here, and it's in the last sentence. It says, any individual or entity that has signed within the previous year a disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship form in compliance with California Civil Code that identifies the listing broker shall not be considered a member of the public under this rule. Okay, so now we have a standard by which we can measure this. The AD form it is in the Civil Code, and it is something that an agent or broker should get signed by their potential client at the earliest possible time in the relationship. Once that is in hand, you can effectively categorize that person, those potential clients, as a client, and you know, you've got that relationship there that is more than just a prospective customer out there. So you've got something going on. There's a strong potential you're going to do some business. So at that point, if you're speaking to that person and talking about listings and properties, it's not really marketing. I mean, you're simply communicating with a client. So that's the way we've broken that out for you guys. That's how that rule is going to be in your rule set. Again, the key concepts to start off this discussion is, you know, who is the public? Who can I talk to and not talk to about a listing before it's in the MLS, or if it's not on the MLS? And then what is marketing? So real quick, a little bit more explanation on the public. I just broke down the fact that anybody who you have that broker has an AD form signed with is not the public. And then also any other agent in that office. Okay, so the way it works in a licensing format with the DRE is there's a broker who has a license, and that particular broker has agents who work underneath them. If you were to go to the DRE website, you would see the name of all those agents. Their license is what we call hung under that broker. So anybody who has that AD form, if a broker has the AD form, that's fair game. And then any listing aid or any agent underneath that broker's license, any agent in that office can speak to those other agents. Okay, so but if you go kind of outside that sphere and you're talking, now you ventured out into the public, and we may have an issue with the clear cooperation rules. All right, so what is marketing? I mean, you saw the list. It's pretty much what you would reasonably consider to be, you know, any attempt to try to generate interest in a property, right? The obvious examples would be you post that on some kind of a portal, right? Zillow, it's distributed all over the place. Realtor.com, homes.com. You blast it out there in your social media, right? You're tweeting about it, you're putting it on your Insta, you're doing Facebook Lives, whatever it might be, promoting this property. Going to a large meeting where you're speaking to people, again, who are outside the scope of your office, that is marketing. Obviously putting up a sign, creating flyers, running an open house, sending out email blasts, and as our rules specified, I mean, even having business type conversations with folks who are outside of your office would be marketing. It doesn't just have to be in the printed form or posted on the internet, right? You can market face to face. So those are the guiding lights here in this policy. So how does this affect your workflow, right? How is this going to change your life in terms of what your interaction is with the MLS? Well, let's start with what's in place now and what's not going to change. Okay, so for many, many years, the MLS per NAR has had what you call the mandatory submission rule, right? And you guys are all very familiar with this. You take a listing within 2 business days, or in Paragon case, 48 hours of the effective date of the listing agreement, you have to make a decision, right? You have to either enter the listing in the MLS as active or exclude the listing, right? And you can exclude the listing, you know, upon your seller's instructions. It may be they want the listing kept out of the MLS altogether, or they want to delay going active because they want to complete their repairs, or, you know, move out a tenant or something along those lines. So that general concept, that's not going to change, right? The mandatory submission rule has not gone away. It will be operative for you going forward. What we're doing at CRMLS is we're going to introduce a couple of new statuses on how you can satisfy the mandatory submission rule, which you'll see in box 2A on this slide. And at the same time, 2B is a second clock, we'll call it, that will also start ticking if you market to the public, right? So there's 2 timing issues here. The first event is always the same. Your listing agreement becomes effective. Now you have the 2 days or 48 hours to make a decision. You're always going to have to deal with that. But you may also have to deal with the 1 business day time frame if you market to the public. So hypothetically, let's say you get your listing date or agreement becomes effective. You're not sure what you're going to do. You're sort of waiting within those 48 hours, and your sign guy shows up, you know, the very same day, and puts the sign in the yard. Well, now you've triggered that 1 business day rule for the marketing rule. Okay, so we have to be mindful of these 2 separate clocks and these 2 separate triggers. So going forward from here in the slideshow, I want to take a second and help you to understand some differences between some of our systems. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the different statuses that we're introducing, like registered and coming soon. But I want you to know and be clear about the fact that everything I'm showing you from this point is specific to what we would call our CR Paragon platform. It is not the same as the SD Paragon platform. What does that mean? Well, if you are using Paragon right now, chances are you're using the San Diego Paragon instance. CRMLS has our own instance of Paragon. We'll call it CR Paragon for short. This is something we've developed to accommodate the changeover that's going to happen coming up in September. What is that all about? Well, over the last couple of years, there was a separation, right? You guys may be aware of this, from in the San Diego area between a certain the group of agents that remained with the San Diego Association, and then some who moved over to the CRMLS sort of footprint. And the separation happened, but the agreement that took place when that separation happened required that everybody stay on the same Paragon platform. Okay, so everybody is sharing the same instance right now. So there is a set of rules that apply there, and we have to match up what we want to do with the people who are also sharing the instance at SDMLS. And so we can't make our own particular set of rules when it comes to SD Paragon. What you're seeing here is the rollout that we're going to have for the CRMLS Paragon, okay, because we can do that independently. And I can dig in more into that as we go forward.
Jeff, can I interrupt just for a second? Because I think that's a really important point a lot of our guys don't understand.
Yeah.
When there was the lawsuit and we split in the North San Diego County Association of Realtors and PSAR joined CRMLS, the agreement was that we still kept the Paragon that we were using with San Diego. Unless you physically made the change and joined CRMLS, you're still using what we're calling the SD version. They call it instance, like to me, it's a version, right? It's the same platform. So 99% of you are still using that. So when he talks about SD Paragon, that applies to almost everybody on this presentation. Just want to make that point, because that came up yesterday, and people were really confused about what's SD versus CR and how do I know which one I'm on.
Right, and I agree, Chris. It can be confusing, and the history is sort of important, as to why is it that way. Well, be aware that it won't always be that way. Okay, so in the agreement that resolved this split, it was required that the SD Paragon platform would be going away as of September 19th, 2020. So that date is approaching soon. So no matter who you are in San Diego, if you're using Paragon down there, either through us or through SDMLS, that instance, that platform will be changing, right? You'll be moving off of that. What'll happen is, for us, you'll be moved over to our CR Paragon. It will be relatively painless. You'll wake up one morning and you'll have the CR Paragon as your platform. There'll be some minor things that have changed in terms of the quantity of your saved searches and that have been converted and things like that, but that's beyond my purview. That's more of the tech people. But you will be moving to CR Paragon as of that particular date, that changeover date. However, we do have our own instance of Paragon right now, which you move to again in September. If you wanted to move over to that now, it's certainly possible, as is potentially a move to Matrix if you want that. CRMLS offers all these different platforms.
And Jeff, just to clarify again for everybody who's on Paragon right now, you will be going off of what you're on right now. It will either be to the CRMLS version of Paragon or San Diego's version of Paragon, but everyone's going to be moved off of what we have currently.
That's right. So with that as a backdrop, what we've done in terms of our rollout for Clear Cooperation is build it with that in mind, right? Because that's the destination for everyone. Either you move sooner or you wait until you're moved off of it onto our instance of Paragon. So what I'm going to explain is all built around that CR Paragon experience that you're going to have sooner or later, okay? So why is that important? Because a few of these options that we've built in are not available in the SD Paragon platform, okay? So I'll get right to it. The registered and coming soon statuses that you see in 2A are not available in SD Paragon, nor will they be, right? At this point, we have asked SDMLS to agree with this type of plan, again, because we share the platform with them. So we can't just do things unilaterally. There has to be an agreement between us. We've asked them to implement the coming soon, and they have said no. Okay, so it's above my pay grade as to understand why, but it has happened. And at this point, they have declined the option or the what we would consider the best choice to adopt a coming soon field and a coming soon status for you guys. So it doesn't look like it's forthcoming in the SD Paragon instance. So I will talk about how you can stay in SD Paragon and still be compliant with Clear Cooperation. It's really not that hard. But what I'm going to show you are some of these features, and just be mindful that they are not and do not appear to be coming in the SD Paragon instance. If you want these features, the only options for you would be to wait it out until you're moved over onto CR Paragon, or cross over sooner, which can certainly happen for you. So let's talk about some of these options that are coming your way. I'll start on the right. So active status is still here. It will always be here. It's exactly the same as it's always been, okay? So if you get a listing and you want to go straight into active, your experience is not going to be changed at all, right? The characteristics of an active listing are right there on that list. You can mark it fully, okay, as you wish, and according to whatever plans you have in any format. It is fully displayed in the MLS. And what do I mean by displayed? It's a listing in the MLS that can be found there. It's not hidden, right? Any of our users can go in and find that active status or that active listing. Commission is offered because it's active, it's in the MLS, it is a requirement that you offer compensation, so it's ready to take an offer, okay? DOM counts. Why? Well, because it's being marketed, right? Days on market, active, being marketed, DOM will be counted. Fully distributed through the MLS. Now this is different from displayed, okay? It's fully displayed in the MLS. It's also fully distributed. And when I say distributed, what that means is it's being sent out from us to the portals and the syndication engines, like for instance, Zillow and Realtor.com. If you're a broker who has selected that, it's also going out to our 22,000 plus IDX sites. So the agent and broker sites that are out there. So it is fully going out into the world, right? No limitations. And of course, showings are allowed because you were trying to sell it, it's active and you can market it. So active is not going to change. Again, if you get a listing and you don't need to exclude or do anything else, and you just want to go straight to active, your experience has not changed. It's completely unaffected by the clear cooperation policy. Moving over to the middle. So here's coming soon. This is something we've not had into CRMLS footprint. It is new. It has been agreed upon that it's definitely a good option for agents to have. The rationale for coming soon is, and has always been, this concept that, like, I have a listing, I got my, I wanted to get my contract signed, but my sellers just aren't quite ready to go, or the property's not quite ready to go. It needs some time to get fully ready for 100% full marketing blitz, but we want to see what's going on out there. So we would really like to have it in the MLS for a period of time and see what kind of interest we get, generate some excitement, some buzz around this listing. However, because it's not completely ready, right? Maybe we shouldn't get counted, the days on market counted against us. So this interim period where there's a limited amount of marketing going on, where you can finish getting your property ready or get your photographer out, get your website done, get your staging done. All that makes perfect sense for coming soon, the rationale for coming soon. So that's what's happening, right? And you'll see that a coming soon is no different than an active listing in the first three respects, right? Marketing is completely allowed. If you have a coming soon listing, you can put your sign out, you can put on your website, your social media, so on and so forth. It is fully displayed in the MLS. If you go in and search coming soon status in your saved searches or in a geographic search, those listings are going to come up. They are not hidden in any way. Commission is offered, so it's available for compensation. If you have a coming soon listing, your sellers can take an offer and a buyer's agent can send you an offer. Here's where things go a little bit differently, right? So no days on market are counted. Again, under the concept that it's not completely ready, it's not 100% being marketed, we're going to allow that DOM to not count for this time frame. Limited distribution, so this is different as well. These listings will not go out through syndication or to IDX. They will go to VOW feeds. So that's a virtual office website. That's a broker who's basically doing all their business online. We have to allow that per the Department of Justice. So they're going to VOW, but they're not going to IDX or syndication. Here's the other key differences. No showings are allowed, right? Why? Well, because it's not ready, right? Guys, let's remember the rationale for this. Because if it's ready to go and you can conduct showings, then it's no different than an active status. It should just be active, right? So there has to be a difference in terms of what kind of marketing and access to the property is allowed in order for it to be different from active and to justify this no days on market time period. The other thing is this is a limited time period. 21 days is the maximum amount of time that a listing can stay in coming soon. It will not be extended, okay? We've done the work, our board of directors, there's been a lot of surveys, and generally speaking, 21 days is about the average that MLSs use for this status, because that seems like a reasonable amount of time to get the property ready, right? So paint, touch up, gardening, whatever it might be. Again, the tenants haven't quite cleared out their possessions, whatever it might be. 21 days is the allowed time period and it will not be extended. At the end of the 21 days, that listing will be triggered by the system to active. So those are the characteristics of coming soon. I've dumped quite a bit of information already, so I can pause here and take a bunch of questions for the on this material so far, Chris.
Okay, a couple of them that just came in regarding the SCLM. I think you're going to address this with registered, but Regarding the SELM, do our client sellers still have the option for Section 8A, which is to authorize us to market the home but do not submit to the MLS? Or does 9 need to be checked per NAR clear cooperation?
Understood. Okay, so yeah, that's branching off a little bit into registered, but I'm going to cut to the chase on the SELM. The forms that we've seen, the new drafts, because what's happening, guys, is CAR is redoing the SELM. Okay, so I can't speak to what's going to be in the final version, but everything that you need to contemplate in regards to an exclusion should be in there. What I've seen, it should be sufficient for all purposes. If you are using the CRMLS exclusion form, if you happen to be in CR, Paragon, or Matrix, our form will be going away. It's extremely likely that we'll be retiring that because the new SELM is very comprehensive and covers everything. So I can't necessarily tell you exactly how to use it, but I can tell you that our estimation is that it will be sufficient for your purposes.
Okay, another question is pretty straightforward, easy. Are you prohibited from putting a coming soon on a brokerage website?
No, because again, one of the key concepts of coming soon is that marketing is still allowed. Okay, so we're not going to be sending it out to IDX or syndication. So if you're a broker who has elected that, it's not going to be going out our doors to those spots, but you still have the option if you are, if you have your own website, or if you are a premier agent in Zillow, for instance, and you have the ability to do so, you can put that coming soon wherever you'd like.
Okay, another one, will coming soon eliminate the agents who list and then say no showings until open house, which is sometimes 10 days away?
Well, I can't predict exactly what the consequences will be, but let me refine one point here. So when I say no showings for coming soon, it means no showings by anybody, including the listing broker, right? Again, consistent with the rationale, if it's not ready, it's not ready, it's coming soon, right? If you're showing it, it's no longer coming soon, it's here, it's live, it's active, it's ready to go. So with regards to that practice of people sort of putting up a screen around their listing and holding off showings until the open house, that's not impermissible in an active status. Will coming soon eliminate it? It certainly would be one option, right? So if they have a real good reason why it's active but there's no showings, in other words, it's still not ready to go, then coming soon would be the perfect place to deal with that, as opposed to shooting it into active. So leave it in coming soon, then there are no showings.
So a follow-up to that question, same person asked. So if they are active, if active, they cannot say no showings?
They cannot say no showings. No. The rule doesn't define that. So the rule of an active status, it does not include a definition that says it must be available to show, right? So that practice, while unfortunate, is not prohibited by the definition of active at this point.
Okay, 2 other quick questions and you can jump back in. How many photos required for coming soon?
Same as an active status. So one photo of a significant or a substantial portion of the exterior of the property. So again, you'll enter all the same fields and all the information, the same information as an active listing for coming soon, right? Because it's fully displayed in the MLS, and so it should look just like an active, but it will have the marketing limitations on it.
Okay, last one. Is it correct that users of CR Paragon and SDMLS will not see homes put in coming soon status on CRMLS until the transfer into active?
So if someone has got a coming soon listing in Matrix, let's say, and you're thinking about the data share, right? So probably not. I would have to defer to Rob Larson and his IT team to specifically tell you what is going out in the data share regarding coming soon. It's pretty complicated, but if they do not have a coming soon status, right, there's no way for it to translate vis-a-vis a data share. So if there's a coming soon status in one system and the other system doesn't have it, there's just no way that the second system can read it. It may be that it triggers it to active. Guys, I honestly don't know how they're going to treat our coming soon listings out there in the data share world if they don't have a coming soon status. I can't say definitively that you won't see them, but I
I'm
can
sure we'll
tell you
have
that they will not be called coming soon.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll have some more, but let's go ahead and have you finish up, because I know a lot of the questions that are going to come up, you're going to cover in registered and how that all ties together.
Sure, great. Okay, so registered status is a bit of a hybrid. What I want you to think about registered as, and really this is the main predominant thought that you should have about registered, is it's really just a replacement for the exclusion process. Okay, so once the registered status is live, you will no longer need to send us your exclusion forms. Okay, because remember, what is an exclusion form? What's the primary purpose? It's to satisfy the mandatory submission rule, right? That 48 hours after the effective date of your listing agreement, you either put it in active or exclude it. The exclusion form is there as that option to, meet the requirements of that rule. Registered is going to do the same thing, and it really won't do anything else. Okay, so now if your seller is not ready to go full marketing, either coming soon or active, or if your seller says, I don't want on the MLS at all, instead of sending us an exclusion form, I mean, you should get your exclusion form signed by your seller. You definitely need that, but you don't need to send it to us. All you need to do now, well, as soon as it's ready to go, is go in and register your listing. It should take you 2 or 3 minutes, guys. It's only going to be 5 information fields that you have to enter. If you see in the bottom left, there's a white box that says what's required for registered, and it's 5 things: address, contract date, price, expiration date, and marketing start date. Those are really the main components of an exclusion form right now, right? So instead of sending it to us, you simply register. Take, again, a couple of minutes as opposed to however long you take to do an exclusion form, and sending it in to us and getting a confirmation email or whatever that might be. Once it's registered, you're good. Okay, now you've parked your listing, you've met the requirements of the mandatory submission rule, and now you can make a decision which way you want to go from registered. Again, under the thinking that registered is just like an exclusion form, the characteristics will make sense to you. So there's no marketing. Well, why? Well, it's not ready to go anywhere, right? So it shouldn't be marketed. It's not displayed in the MLS. These are completely behind the wall. Just like if you send us an exclusion form, we don't push those out to some place where everybody can see them. The same thing here. The only people who can see a registered listing are the broker, the listing agent, perhaps their office manager if they have permissions, and the MLS staff. No one else. They don't go out to distribution. They're not visible in the MLS. They're not searchable. They only exist in that format in those 5 pieces of information, and they're parked there until you as the listing broker or agent choose to do otherwise. No commission. Clearly, it's not in the MLS for cooperation yet. There's no DOM because it's not being marketed. Again, I just said it's not distributed out. Now, the last one is where I'll jump off to help you understand that the registered status is where you would go the route of doing an office exclusive, right? Or what we might call a non-cooperation listing. So why are showings only to listing broker client allowed? Well, because if you go off MLS and you want to do an office exclusive, you're allowed to do that, right? Within certain rules. And one of the aspects of trying to sell a property off MLS is you still have to show it, right? But remember, this is where the limitations come in as to who is or isn't the public, right? So let's say the hypothetical is my seller says, I don't want this on the MLS at all. Very well, you get the exclusion form signed. I don't have to send it to the MLS anymore. I simply register it, right? And then I proceed to execute an off MLS office exclusive type marketing plan. But in that case, what that means is you can only talk about that listing to the other agents under your common broker license, or to people who have signed the AD form with that broker in the last year, right? So if you venture outside of that and do any of the things that are listed in that, detailed list of public marketing in the marketing rule, you are now triggering that 1 business day time frame, that clock that you've now got to go into coming soon or active. So again, let's say our hypothetical is I've got this off MLS. I'm only talking to agents in my office about it. Now remember, it doesn't mean you can talk to anybody else under the same franchise banner, right? So if there's 5 KW offices in your area of the county, and you guys all hang out together and things, unless they're all under the same broker license, you can't go ahead and talk to them just because they're KW agents, right? It's limited to that broker number. So I'm talking to people only within those limitations. I'm talking to my potential buyers who my broker has an AD form signed with, so all is well so far. But something happens and I trip up, let's say, and I decide I want to put a sign out in front of this property. Okay, well now you've gone outside the ropes, so to speak. Now you are marketing to the public. Now you triggered the 1 business day time clock for you to get it into coming soon or active. Okay, so registered is a great starting point. You satisfy the mandatory submission rule. You don't have to send us an exclusion form. You can make a choice as to how long you want to stay in registered. There's no time limit. The system's not going to kick your listing out of registered into some other status. Only you can do that. Registered can be a great place to park that listing while, let's say, you have major rehab going on at a property, right? So 21 days in coming soon is probably not going to get it done, right? Let's say you need 60 days. Your contractor manages to bring it in on time. At that point, now you want to go to coming soon because now you've got the ability to market again within those limitations. So registered is very helpful. It should be really helpful for your workflow. It's the first point where you'll park your listing. Now, you don't have to go registered, right? So if you get your listing agreement signed and your seller says, I'm ready, let's go to coming soon, then go straight to coming soon. Or I'm ready, let's go to active, we need to move soon. You go straight to active. Okay, so again, the concept is registered replaces the exclusion process. That's all it does, guys, and it's a place to park your listing while you're deciding what to do or while you're going the office exclusive route. It's not visible. No one can search it. You can't talk about it, right? You can't show it. It's not there for compensation, and obviously there's no days on market counted. So let me bounce back to this other slide. So Chris, you want to run some questions on registered? You're muted, Chris.
I'm typing away, so I don't want you to hear my clicking.
No problem.
Does registered trigger a temporary MLS number or an actual number, or it doesn't do anything for an MLS number?
I'm not 100% sure. I guarantee you there will be an identifier. Whether or not that will be the actual MLS number that is pinned to that listing when it comes out the door, I can't tell you for sure. I would be shocked if it was any different. So the answer is I'm not 100% sure, but I know it will have an identifier. It can't, unless, even if the identifier is the address, I just don't know yet.
Okay, so if you have a signed SCLM form and you switch to coming soon because you messed up, do you need to get seller signature to agree?
Oh, yeah, so coming soon, you really should have, excuse me, a seller advisory on coming soon. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have it in order to go to coming soon. The rule does say you're in possession of it if you're going to coming soon. So I'm not 100% sure what the question means in terms of you messed up. You want to try and refine that for me a little bit more, Chris?
That's all. That was, I read verbatim. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me ask. There was another one. Oh, questions are coming in between now and September.
Mm-hmm.
People in SD Paragon, what do they do with the statuses?
Gotcha.
Registered and coming soon.
Yeah, and so this is really shouldn't be very concerning for you because all you guys are going to do is continue to use your exclusion process as is, but realize that you are subject to the public marketing rule. Okay, so you don't have to worry about registered, you don't have to worry about coming soon, you can ignore all that if you're going to stay in SD Paragon until the conversion. Just do business as usual, but realize that if you have a property, let's say you're on an exclusion form, If you market to the public, you've got to go into active. That's going to be your only option. Okay, so now you can be on an exclusion form, right? Where your seller says, keep it out of the MLS. And you're fine, that's fine. You send in the exclusion form and you can go out and market the property. But that is no longer allowed. That is the main issue here, right? So if you're on an exclusion form after May 1st, when this rule is implemented, and you've got your property out there being publicly marketed, that option is going to go away. You're going to have to load it into the MLS as active. So you want to comply with the clear cooperation rules, but in terms of your workflow, nothing should change for you, unless, up until the time the conversion happens.
Okay. That's all we have. If you want to keep going.
Yes, sir. So we've got a couple of other sort of bells and whistles that we're going to be rolling out. Maybe May 1st, maybe not, but these are some additional listing measures that are going to be available in CRMLS Paragon. They are not crucial to you understanding for purposes of the clear cooperation policy. They're just fringe benefits that our team has come up with. There's going to be some new counting measures in there. So the second bullet point is DOM. That's going to be the same as it always has been. Days active or active under contract without that deal closing. Makes perfect sense and unchanged. But the first one is an interesting one, DNA. It's days not active. So we're going to have a counter for days in any status other than active, active under contract, or pending. So if it was let's say if you're in CRMLS, Paragon, or Matrix, and you had the property in hold for a little while, that's going to be counted. Or as in Paragon, it would be withdrawn. So there's going to be a count for that time that it's truly not active. Then we're going to have days in pending, which is exactly what it sounds like. So this will be helpful for you guys to maybe see how long it's taking deals to close once they go to contract, or maybe this particular listing has been in pending for 90 days, and there's something, gives you the suspicion that there's something going on with that property, so you want to check with the listing broker. So that's another good little tool. And then days listed is pretty much just everything. Every day in the life of that listing since it was entered in the MLS until it goes to a final status. So those will be rolling out. They'll be available in your agent full reports. Those particular counts, those 3 new ones, are not going to be going out the door. They'll just be staying in the MLS for you guys to look at.
Okay, and that was a question I was going to have. I know that's been asked to me a couple of times.
Okay.
What is it that's being sent out to the third-party sites, to the Zillows and Realtor.coms? Because the whole point is that the public really needs to know the truth. If a house has been on the market, I mean, it was an example. We had an expensive one in our marketplace that showed $3.5 million and it sold in 33 days. People said, wow. But if you really did the history, it was 6 years of price reductions from $6 million to get down there, and that needs to be represented somewhere. So what is the public actually going to see, and what is the agent going to see?
Well, unfortunately, the portals and those sites dictate what they want to show, right? So, I mean, everything gets sent, but generally speaking, my understanding is they have their own measures, right? A lot of times they'll just count the days that particular listing has been on their site, right? Days on site. So I can't speak to a universal rule as to what they're doing or what everyone is seeing out there. It's going to be subject to how they push it out, right? We send it over, but they might change it up a little bit and use their own count.
Okay.
So if you want to get the real picture, obviously come into the MLS.
Yeah, and then I know that you mentioned it, but the questions come up a couple times now. If you're in coming soon, you got your 21 days, it automatically rolls to active. What if you're not ready at the 21 days? What are your options?
Well, for Paragon users, I mean, the one reasonable option would be withdrawn, right? So that's an off-market status where days on market is not being counted. You want to make sure that you have instructions from the seller to do that. I know that the claim is, wow, there's just such an easy workaround for this. Well, perhaps, but remember, withdrawn has some pretty strict rules. You can't show it under withdrawn either, right? So don't just assume that that's just another version of coming soon, because it isn't. But it is an option if the property is not ready at the end of the 21 days.
Okay, and before we, because again, we mentioned at the top, it's been asked 3 or 4 times, is it going to be recorded? It is being recorded. You'll find it on nsdcartv.com. All of our chit chats, the last 2, this one, everything we have is going to be there. So I know there's a lot of information these guys are giving us today, Jeff and Carol, and you're going to want to see this a couple times to make sure you get it. So you will be able to go back and review this on our YouTube channel, nsdcartv.com.
Yeah. I'm going to hustle through these guys. I know we're at the hour and 7-minute mark, and I don't want to burn too much more of your time. The next few slides are the specific instances of what the rules changes are going to look like. So that prohibition on showings during an active or coming soon or withdrawn status is going to be in Rule 9.8. Okay, so that's the change you'll be having there. There's the new coming soon status. That's again in the CRMLS Paragon. That is the definition of the status that we'll be using on that side. One thing you should be aware of is that if you are going to advertise a coming soon under this rule and under the rule set, you need to identify the property is coming soon. So if you have a sign out front, you should have your coming soon rider on top, and then include the date when it's going to be active. Withdrawn is basically as is, but we have referenced the property is not available for showings consistent with Rule 9.8, right? So it's temporary off the market, and advertising as defined is permitted when you're in withdrawn, but you can't show it. All right, so let's get to this fun stuff. So what are the penalties? What are the citation amounts for breaking these rules? Well, what we're doing here is we've got a sliding scale, right? So the measure is 1% of the list price, no less than 500, no more than 2,500. So the sliding scale is to make it equitable for areas where the median price is lower, right? So it should be, it should correspond to that. Why is it capped at 2,500, or why is it so much? I mean, depending on your perspective. Well, it's 2,500 because, or it's more than most of our other citation amounts, because it should be a little bit more than something you could absorb just as the cost of doing business, right? So if you're selling a lot of high-end homes, you're dealing in the luxury market, maybe the fine, you know, is something you could look at and say, well, I don't care. I'm just going to pay that off and I'll be able to do whatever I want to do. So that could change. I will tell you that generally across the nation, this is on the low side. The predominant number that most MLSs are using is 5,000. That's where this number kind of started out in our contemplation. The board of directors eventually settled on 2,500. We'll have to see if that's necessary, right? So if conduct out there is widespread disregard for these rules, which we'll find out, obviously, maybe that has to go up. I'm not sure, but it is on the low side on the national scale. I mean, there is at least one MLS that their rule is if you break these rules 3 times, you are terminated from the MLS, which is another way of saying you're out of business. So that's where we're at with that. We will be giving warnings on these. So you won't just have a citation show up someday if you do break the rules. For instance, if there's a sign out in front of your listing and it's not in the MLS, we get a report of that. We're going to wait maybe that 1 business day to see if you do get it in there. If you don't, you get a warning, and maybe we'll give you 1 more business day to correct it. So enforcement is very, very similar on these to what you're doing now, right? For off MLS properties. Here at CRMLS and our compliance department, we have no way of knowing what's happening with a property that's not in the MLS. Clearly, there's no listing, so you can't click on the report a violation link. You'll need to send in whatever evidence you have to compliance@crmls.org, and we will take it from there. Questions on any of that, the citations or the fines or the warning or any of that process? You're still muted there, Chris.
Yeah, I am. I should know this by now.
Me too. I do it all the time. I do it all the time.
No question on that, but I just want to add my comment to that.
Yeah.
I agree that the fine should be severe enough that people don't do this. And the reason why is What separates us from the third-party sites, we all know Zillow is completely inaccurate. And as a broker, I get calls all the time about properties that are listed there that have been sold and they just haven't taken them off. And for us to provide the value to the consumer that we want, it needs to be accurate. And the whole goal is accurate, not to penalize. But in order to be accurate, sometimes we have to make sure that people pay penalties to get their attention. So it's not like CRMLS is looking to go out and just raise revenue. They would prefer not to collect $1 in fines. I know that. I'm a board of directors there, right? But it's our responsibility to make sure we put out accurate information, and that's why there has to be a significant penalty for people that don't comply. If after giving warnings, still refuse to take action, that's when the penalties kick in.
Yeah. And, I share the sentiment, and, this has been a long time coming. I mean, the complaints and the news that we have gotten over the many years regarding off MLS activity has always been, one of protest about it. So NAR, as that professional organization, that association, because real estate is a profession, guys, it's not a job, right? So being professionals within the profession, you police and maintain the professionalism. And that's a great place to be. So this solution came from within your profession, from your peers. I mean, I practiced for 15 years before law school. I love this profession, and I think that when we take steps like this, it's always going to be good. Whether or not every single person agrees with it, and of course, there's going to probably be that one outlier seller who someone could speak about that, well, this really, is not fair to them. Well, there's still options here. You can still go off MLS through the office exclusive, but yes, if you are marketing to the public, you now have an obligation to put that that listing in the MLS, as really, guys, has always been the intent of the MLS. It's really just putting in place something that should have already been known and understood. So that's my commentary on that. Timelines.
Yeah, hang on one sec. Carol had a great question about the coming soon again.
Okay.
Since coming soon is not currently a status in Paragon, can agents enter the listing as withdrawn and then 21 days later, and then in 21 days change it to active?
Well, I mean, that's up to you within your system, but I mean, I can't tell you that it's going to behave and be subject to the exact same rules as coming soon. That is not what withdrawn is meant to be, right? Coming soon has its own special rules. So you're asking if it behaves the same way? No. If you want to put a listing in with withdrawn for 21 days and then go active, that's up to you and your seller. But don't expect that to get the same treatment or be subject to the same rules as coming soon.
Okay.
So timelines, guys. Again, NAR asked us to implement this by May 1st, which we are clearly on our way to doing and being able to do. May 4th is when we'll essentially start enforcement, because that's a Monday. May 1st is a Friday. We never start anything big on a Friday here. Registered status, and this may help some of you who plan to stay on the SD Paragon instance. Registered status is coming a little bit down the road, maybe sometime in summer. So after May 1st, not May 4th, registered status will be rolling out. Until then, everybody just keep using your exclusion forms as is. The other relevant timeframes I'll remind you of is September of 2020 is when the conversion is going to happen, where everybody's going off the San Diego Paragon instance and going somewhere else. Okay, there's no option there. We have places for you to go. If you're one of our users, you'll be going to CRMLS Paragon. You can certainly do that now. It's already available. And on May 4th, all of what I just talked to you about will, except for register, which is coming a little bit later, will be available to you. So if you want to take advantage of that earlier than September, then that would be your option. I think that's all my substantive material here, although the last thing is we do have a full page on crmls.org dedicated to clear cooperation with a dedicated email box, clearcooperation@crmls.org. You can send your questions there. You can read our knowledge base, our FAQ, and everything that we've loaded onto that page for you guys to learn more about this. I believe AOR is going to take care of sending this video out and or whatever else goes along with this webinar. So thank you guys. I can hang around a little bit longer if you have questions, or you can send them over to clearcooperation@crmls.org.
Okay, Jeff, a few that have just come in the last second here. And again,
No problem.
all you have to do to get a recording of this video or the last 2 weeks is go to the website nsdcar.com TV. I'm sorry, nsdcrtv.com. It'll point you to the YouTube channel and you'll be able to watch these again, okay? Where, I guess I don't know where the rules start. When do we have coming soon anyway? Okay, going back in this. Coming soon is going to be available on May 4th if you're a CR Paragon user or a Matrix user.
Right.
If you're not, it's not available.
Right. It won't, and it doesn't look like it will be,
Right.
Although by default, when you are moved off of SD Paragon in September, you'll get it because, I mean, it's presuming you land in one of our systems like CR Paragon or Matrix, right? But you're going to have to go somewhere. But I can guarantee we'll have it for you then.
Okay. Can Jeff clarify how the agents will follow these rules without having the tools status?
Well, if you're saying that, let's say you're an SD Paragon user, and how you will follow the rules, well, you won't have to worry about the rules related to registered or coming soon because they won't be available to you. If you're referring to the clear cooperation rule, which is if you market to the public, you have 1 business day to put it in, your only option will be to put it into active, okay? So how will you follow the clear cooperation rules? If you don't have those other statuses, don't market publicly. Well, and if you do, then you've got to get it in 1 business day into active, right? So if you exclude a property and you're not staying within the confines of your office or those buyers that have an AD form signed with your broker, and you go outside of those lines, I don't care what system you're using, the clear cooperation rule will trigger. Okay, so you'll have to just pay attention to that. Make sure that if you are publicly marketing the property, it needs to be in the MLS as active if you're in SD Paragon, or if you're in CR Paragon, you can go coming soon or active.
Oh, sorry, I'm responding to questions here.
Yep.
Trying to answer texts from staff and reply to chats. Okay, I don't really, our data gets transferred automatically over after conversion. If you're an SD Paragon user now, you're going to be switched over to CR Paragon. Just a brief description of how that's going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, all of your information will go, right? So I am told that there may be some carts or save searches that don't make it. I don't know the technical issues with that, but the number I've given or been given is 80% of all of your save searches will come over, and no less than that. Other than that, everything should be the same. You'll just wake up and you'll be using that new instance, with the exception of maybe there's a missing save searcher here. If you want more specifics on that, you'll have to go to our IT folks and they'll pin that down for you of specifically what you're thinking or what you're asking about.
And again, because there's so much confusion out there, anybody who's on Paragon right now that was in the San Diego instance of it or version of it is going to be going off of that. Whether you're an SDR member, PSAR, NSDCR, you're going to be going off your current version. It will either be to the version that CRMLS has built already and is functional for their members, or it's going to be whatever version San Diego SDR has. But everyone's going off of that by September 19th.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, I think that's it. Last question. Our client base will come over as well. I know. I've asked that of Rob a dozen times too, and it's.
I'm not 100% sure what you mean if your client base in terms of your email list. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
And your auto emails and things like that. I don't know.
It's supposed to. Let's say as far as technology goes, it's supposed to be as seamless as they can make it. Let's put it that way. But nobody can guarantee it's going to be 100%, right? Whether you're going to CRMLS or SDAR, you have technology, you have lots of records, you have photos, you have lots of things, and the intent and the design is yes.
Mhm. Yeah, we have the skill to do it, but remember, we're also dealing with the platform developer who is basically governing the whole thing in the background, and we're in some ways beholden to what they can and can't do. But we know what we're asking for, and we have our aims, our goals are high, and we plan to hit them.
Okay, great job, guys. We greatly appreciate Carol, Jeff, you guys joining us today. Hopefully everybody here found that informative. Just remember, next Friday we're going to have Lawrence Yoon, who's the chief economist at NAR, and Christian Hoysrat, who's a political representative at NAR. So make sure you check in. If you want to see this week's, the last 2 weeks, go to nsdcrtv.com. And until then, stay safe, be well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.